and gentlemen, Excellencies, the Council will now consider draft resolution S24/L1 entitled Preventing the Deterioration of the Human Rights Situation in Burundi. I would like to give the floor to the representative of the United States of America to introduce the draft text. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States is pleased to co-sponsor this resolution on Burundi today, which builds on the consensus resolution passed at the 30th session of the Human Rights Council. We think this is an appropriate and strong outcome of the work we have done during this special session. We want to extend our thanks to key partners in the African Group, the African Union for their leadership here in New York and in Addis. We also want to thank the European Union for bringing this issue to the Council in September and for their continued engagement and partnership on the initiative. The resolution condemns ongoing violations and abuses of human rights in Burundi. It urges all actors in Burundi to create a climate conducive to the promotion of genuine and inclusive dialogue based on respect of the Arusha Agreement in order to reach a consensual political solution. We are pleased that the resolution calls on the High Commissioner to urgently deploy a team of independent experts on the mission to Burundi to investigate alleged violations of and abuses of human rights. These experts should be deployed as soon as possible. Subsequently, the experts and the office can work together to provide an oral update and engage on an interactive dialogue on the human rights situation on Burundi in the Council's 31st session and a more fulsome report on the Council's 33rd session. We welcome actions taken by the broader international community to keep pressure on Burundi to pursue a credible dialogue. Coming a month after the UN Security Council passed Resolution 2248 on the political situation in Burundi, this resolution seeks to keep international attention on the dire human rights situation in Burundi. It also keeps international pressure on Burundi and the opposition to pursue a credible dialogue to end this crisis. The mandate called for in this resolution will supplement the African Union's plans to deploy additional human rights monitors. The international community must keep eyes on Burundi to prevent further deterioration of the situation in a country that has seen the deaths of hundreds of thousands in the past. Reportedly, more than 100 people were killed last weekend alone. We appreciate the work that African Union and the UN Security Council have done to promote peace and reconciliation in Burundi. We hope that the Human Rights Council's efforts in this special session will also help to shine a spotlight on the dire situation in Burundi as part of our collective efforts to promote universal respect for the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all. This is the mandate of the Council, and at this critical moment, all the UN bodies and mechanisms must be engaged. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I've been informed by the Secretariat that there are 46 additional co-sponsors. I would now like to give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make general comments. I see the Netherlands. You have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai l'honneur.
Mr. President, it is my honor to speak on behalf of the European Union. Some months after having adopted a resolution condemning the serious human rights violations in Burundi, the Council is meeting once again today to express its grave concerns with respect to an ever-deteriorating situation. Violence is continuing, as was demonstrated by the attacks of the 11th and 12th of December, which led to over 90 casualties. In this particularly serious situation, the Human Rights Council must act in keeping with its mandate. In this respect, we support the draft resolution submitted to us, which aims to most firmly condemn all human rights abuses committed in Burundi, whoever their perpetrators may be. This resolution is in line with the action that was undertaken by this Council in October and the Security Council in Resolution 2248 adopted in November. The European Union supports the prompt deployment of a mission of independent experts, which should not only allow for the documentation of human rights violations and abuses committed by all parties, but also to identify the presumed perpetrators of these actions in order to bring them to justice. This experts mission will be complementary to the existing UN mechanism in terms of human rights. The work of this mission will feed into future work within the Human Rights Council on Burundi during its upcoming session. The European Union wishes to congratulate the United States of America, which have guided the negotiations in a transparent and inclusive fashion. We call upon the government of Burundi to fully cooperate with this Council and the mission of experts that is provided for under this resolution. It is my pleasure to inform you that all member states of the European Union have co-sponsored the resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other requests for the floor under general comments? That seems to be not the case. We shall now hear from the concerned country. I give the floor to the distinguished delegate of Burundi. You have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the delegation of Burundi, as was said this morning, this draft resolution, just as the special session on Burundi, are an opportunity. Indeed, according to the initiators, the purpose is to prevent an imminent genocide in Burundi. We believe that this is a deliberate tactic to keep pressure to bear upon Burundi at the instigation of some foreign persons who attempt to fully illegally support the persons who serve them in Bujumbura. We would like to remind you that Burundi is no longer a colonized country, but a sovereign one, and has as its leaders the men and women to whom its nation gave a mandate during the last election in keeping with the fundamental law that is in force. This resolution is also very much imbalanced because the terrorist acts committed by a radical opposition which is unelected and directed from the outside of the country with the support of special persons is not mentioned. Moreover, it casts a veil over the root causes of the crisis that Burundi has been undergoing, stigmatizes a part of the youth that are members of the party in power, and supports the claims made recently to the effect that the statements made by some of our leaders may lead to large-scale massacres in Burundi. We also see in this resolution the loss, an expression of the loss of lives in Burundi, but they are established as if they were a hierarchy amongst the dead. For the government of Burundi, every life is sacred. The draft resolution also aims to establish a mission of independent experts for a fact-finding mission in Burundi of the Human Rights Council, whereas the resolution bears on technical assistance and capacity building in October 2015 already provided a mandate to this institution in order to strengthen its presence in Burundi. And the government of Burundi has given its agreement to it. This resolution was adopted 3 months ago. We are still expecting its implementation. Given this, we doubt that there's any added value in this initiative and would like to take this opportunity to reiterate Burundi's commitment to always cooperate with all the international mechanisms in the human rights arena. We would like to recall that the government of Burundi has already extended a standing invitation to all mandate holders under the special procedures. To conclude, Burundi is opposed to the adoption of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are PBIs for this draft proposal. I will therefore now give the floor to Mr. Carl Ward, Chief of the Program Support and Management Services of the OHCHR, for a statement. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The draft resolution now before the Council requests the High Commissioner for Human Rights to urgently organize and dispatch a mission by existing independent experts to undertake an investigation into violations and abuses of human rights, with the view to preventing further deterioration of the situation, to provide an oral update at the 31st session of the Human Rights Council, and to submit the report for its consideration at its 33rd session in September 2016. The resolution also decided to enhance the interactive dialogues for the Council's 31st and 33rd sessions so as to include the participation of other stakeholders, in particular representatives from the African Union, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, civil society, and relevant special procedures addressing human rights in Burundi. Owing to the brief duration of this session and the recent presentation of the draft resolution, the Secretariat has not benefited from the requisite period in which to prepare and present a formal statement of financial implications for this draft resolution. Pending final analysis to confirm the full costs of these new mandated activities, preliminary estimates for the mission and subsequent reporting to the Human Rights Council would be approximately $888,000 under Section 24 Human Rights. This does not, however, include all costs for potential security requirements, given the present situation in Burundi and the UN minimum operating security standards mandating the use of armored vehicles for movements in increasing numbers of designated areas in the country, including Bujumbura. Costs for conference services incorporating the translation and processing of the final report and interpretation services for the mission are also to be determined. This statement is presented to inform the Council that no provision has been included within the proposed program budget for the biennium 2016-2017 to accommodate these activities, and thus the Secretariat will present the cost estimates for the implementation of this new mandate to the Advisory Committee on Administrative and Budgetary Questions for consideration as soon as possible under the provisions of the General Assembly Resolution on Unforeseen and Extraordinary Expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move towards explanation of votes before the vote. I would like to give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make such an explanation of vote before the vote. Are there any such requests for the floor? I see none. Then my question is there a request for a vote? I see no such request. May I take it then that draft proposal S24/L1 may be adopted without a vote? So decided. We will now move to explanations of vote and general comments after the vote. Are there any delegations wishing to take the floor? I see none. No requests for the floor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before closing our meeting, I would like to remind you that the report of the 24th special session is currently being finalized and will be shortly posted on the HRC extranet. The Vice President and Rapporteur of the Human Rights Council, His Excellency Mr. Muthusi Busa Basha Palai, is entrusted with the finalization. May I take it that the draft report is adopted at referendum? Thank you. It is so decided. Delegations will have the opportunity to submit comments through the Secretariat within 2 weeks from the date of circulation of the draft report. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this special session. As I said earlier, an organizational meeting of the Human Rights Council will be held most likely on 12th January, primarily for the purpose of selecting members of the Troikas for the 24th, 25th and 26th session of the Working Group on the UPR. I would also like to remind you that the 24th session of the Working Group on the UPR will be held from 18th to 29th January. The inscription on the list of speakers for that session will open on Monday, 11th January. With this, and if there are no further comments, let me wish you all happy holidays and a great start in the year 2016. Let 2016 be a good year for the human rights worldwide, a good year for the Human Rights Council turning 10, and a good year for all of you. With these wishes, I hereby declare closed the 24th special session of the Human Rights Council. Right.